We are going to be talking about the stabilization wedge game board. The wedges we chose are efficiency buildings, efficiency electricity, wind electricity, solar electricity, soil storage, biofuels, efficiency transport, and wind hydrogen. The first wedge I'm going to discuss is efficiency buildings. As you can see by the picture, different parts of a household let out different amounts of heat because the insulation isn't sufficient. So by adding insulation, it will be able to keep in more heat, thus not needing as much. Also, adding efficient lighting and appliances will help as well, and you're not using as much energy. By doing this and cutting 25% of energy used by residential buildings, it would achieve one wedge. Problems that come along with efficiency buildings is the house size would need to decrease to lower the amount of energy used to heat it, and consumers must purchase the new insulation and appliances and such. And it's very hard to regulate because you can't really tell if people are always going to buy the new appliances and actually follow the rules. The next wedge is efficiency electricity. Power plants make up 25% of CO2 emissions in our world, and by decreasing that and making their efficiency from 40 to 60%, it will have a much less emission of CO2 gas, which will help our Earth. Challenges that come along are there's going to be increased costs to the power plants, especially with industrialized countries that have so many power plants. They're going to need to put in a lot of money and tax dollars into it to make sure that all of their plants are efficient. Also, because of this, they're going to need new equipment, which is going to need to be produced and made, and that also costs money. The third wedge can be achieved through wind electricity. By replacing coal with the wind energy, it would achieve the entire wedge. While turbines take up a lot of space, the land can also be used for crops or pasture as well between the turbines, since they're only just large poles in the ground. It's also completely clean energy. Problems that have come along with this are people aren't going to want these windmills in their backyard. Some people don't see them as aesthetically pleasing, so they're not going to want to look at them. Another problem is the land needed is approximately the size of Germany, which is going to take up 1 million large windmills. And another problem is money exerted to build such farms is going to be fairly high. Not as much as other projects, but it's still going to be a good amount of money. The fourth wedge is solar energy. The electricity from sunlight is completely carbon dioxide free and renewable. The land demand is less than other renewable resources because it can be put on multiple surfaces, such as housing roofs or telephone poles. If it displaces coal, it has 100 times the current capacity of coal. Problems going along with this are that it's 2 to 5 times more expensive than fossil fuel, which in our economy is a big deal because people are already up in arms about the price of fossil fuels. And the land needed for all of these solar panels is going to be approximately the size of New Jersey. And another issue is it cannot collect energy at night. For soil storage, just turning natural vegetation to cropland reduces carbon by 50 to 75% because it traps the carbon in there. It's new, cleaner farming techniques, a low cost, and very easy for developing countries who are just on their way into industrialization. Problems are there's a risk of leakage for the carbon emissions to come through the soil. It's difficult to regulate because there's so much land, and it needs to be on all cropland. Biofuels is a wedge that has really been coming into existence over the past couple years. They're neutral emissions because plants absorb as much carbon dioxide gas from the air as they would exert from the car, and has little risk of running out of fuel because you have to grow the resources, they're renewable, and there's always ways of getting more. And there's no mining or drilling needed, so the land is saved. Though biofuels have a lot of perks, they also have a lot of problems, such as the amount of land needed just specifically for biofuels, let alone crops used for food and feed for the animals and such, would be the size of India, which is 1/6 of the world's cropland, which is a considerably large amount of land specifically for biofuels. Also, droughts could really cripple the system because if the plants die, we won't be able to make the fuel, and it would take a considerably long amount of time to regrow the plants and such. And in order to reduce demand for land, scientists would need to engineer cells to photosynthesize sooner, which is going to take a lot of energy from the scientists and still needs to be produced. Another idea used as a wedge is efficiency transport, which has been coming into the world very quickly in the past couple years. People are buying hybrid cars and such, and buying electric cars, which has really been helping the environment. And these cars' fuel efficiency will double, meaning more miles per gallon, and they're relatively inexpensive compared to some of the other wedges. Automotive companies have also already started creating these, and people already have them. There's a lot on the road. And because of this, gas emissions will be cut in half, and cutting from trucks and airplanes as well will also be beneficial because flight is the new up-and-coming way of travel. Problems going along are car size will be larger and power will be lost because also the car size, let alone the weak energy coming from the electricity, though clean. Also, it'll take many years to achieve the wedge because all cars on the road will need to be changed into more efficient, and people are going to have to buy new models and put out the money to do so, and not a lot of people are going to be able to do that, let alone being able to regulate that. So it's a challenge to go along with this. The last wedge we chose is wind hydrogen. Hydrogen's only emission is water vapor, making it one of the cleanest. It's less money than hydrogen fuel cells itself because the energy is coming from wind turbines, and it does not require any petroleum at all because we don't have to use it to extract the hydrogen because the energy is coming from the wind. Though it sounds good on paper, wind hydrogen comes with a lot of challenges as well, such as it will be double the amount of wind turbines just for wind energy alone, so it'll be about 2 million wind turbines on the Earth, which is doubling the amount of space needed to provide them. And it's not as efficient as wind replacing coal. The area needed is approximately the size of France, and it's very expensive to install all of these windmills and then use it to create the hydrogen from it. Hydrogen is also not safe. Without advancements, it poses the risk of explosion because when used in cars, it has, the spark, and it is very, very dangerous. By using these ways of achieving wedges, we'll be able to cut 8 billion tons of carbon from our Earth's atmosphere per year, which will really help its health and be able to stop global warming.